Hello from gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and today I have a big job ahead of me. I grow, as you know, carnivorous plants, Sarracenia, and I grow them outdoors in planters, very large planters. And today what we're going to do is we are going to move those Sarracenia planters and set them up elsewhere in the garden. So it's a big job, and if you are wondering how to actually set these planters up and establish Sarracenia outdoors in your garden, then stay tuned for this video because we'll go through the whole thing as we disassemble and reassemble it. Okay, let's go. And here we go. So here beside me are my Sarracenia planters. This one here and the other one behind there. And these are ones that I made myself in order to grow Sarracenia outdoors in the garden. So why am I moving these? And the reason why I'm moving the planters is that when I originally set them up, they were in full sun, and that is the kind of aspect that Sarracenia want. However, as my garden has matured, trees have grown up, especially the tetrapanics, with its very large leaves, which tend to umbrella this planter in summer. Now, you can't really see that now because it's lost the leaves for the winter. But the result of that is that the Sarracenia aren't growing as well or as heartily as they might, so I want to move them to a place with more sun. And now I'm removing the rocks at the top of the planter, and you can see what it's composed of as I do this. So we have here a plastic container, just a really big plastic basin that is full of the appropriate mix and my Sarracenia plants. So here are my Sarracenia plants, and they've all been cut back now at this stage, which is fine. They are deciduous plants and you need to cut them back in early spring. And if you're not sure about that process, then check out the video I'll link to at the end. But these all need to come out. Now they're interspersed with a lot of moss, and the moss is very good for Sarracenia in terms of like keeping the moisture in. Personally, I don't like the look of it, so I'm going to get rid of the moss as I remove the plants. Okay, so some of these are actually falling apart as I lift them up, but we're not going to worry about that. That'll just make it dividing easier. I'm just going to put them in a trug over here now, keep them safe, and we'll probably look at dealing with them in a different video. And now at this stage you can see the mix I've used. So this is 50% peat and 50% horticultural sand. The horticultural sand is for drainage, and the peat really is for, well, it's what the plant naturally grows in. Now I think I've removed all of the plants, so what I'm just going to do is get rid of this mossy stuff that's on top of the mix. I'm going to use the mix again, but I want to kind of clean it up a bit. And we have Ishtar helping me today. Hello! So we have to take all of this sand and peat out and bring it over to the new site. I could help you, of course, but like it's difficult to get in there. There's nowhere for me to stand. And now out comes the basin. Yay! Well done. It's heavy! And working on the second trug now, there is an amazing discovery. Look at those blooming roots. Now these are not the roots of Sarracenia. These are the roots of a tree, possibly my Tetrapanix rex, which is sited beside it. I just hope this thing hasn't made a hole at the base of the planter. Look what was in my Sarracenia planter. This is the root of Tetrapanix, which I know and love, but Tetrapanix is not my friend at the moment. And out it comes. And I'm using an aquarium sealant just to fill in some of these holes. So there are too many holes, I believe, in this planter. I really don't know what I was thinking when I made it, and I'm just going to fill them in a bit. So I'm just using the sealant as glue really, and just putting these bits of plastic on there. And you know what, if it's not 100% waterproof, it's not the end of the world. The force of gravity, of course, pressing down is going to help just keep these bits of plastic in place. And I'm using aquarium sealant, of course, because Sarracenia are very sensitive plants and very sensitive to poisons. So I'm filling in this hole here as well. And the only hole I'm going to leave in the planter are these little overflow holes at the top. Okay, back again, and the aquarium sealant will have sealed by now. It'll be dry, so it's time to fill up these trugs. And I am putting polystyrene chips at the base of this container. Here we go. So these are ones that I haven't bought purposely, but have acquired through post, etc. And it just seems to me that I don't need to fill all of this big container with the mix. I can actually save a bit by just filling some of it up with this. So as you can see, this container here is much taller than the one behind, and the one behind I had in situ for many years, as many years as this, and it did grand, despite the fact that it has a lot less mix in it than this. So I think polystyrene chips at the base of this to conserve the precious mix is going to be just the ticket. Okay, so now it's time to start shoveling this mix back into the containers. So now, in order to freshen up this mix, which has been in situ for several years, I'm going to add some moss peat. So the mix I'm using here is 50%, the one that was here previously underneath is 50% horticultural sand and 50% peat. And as you'll have seen in my repotting video, I mix the two together. You can use perlite instead of the horticultural natural sand, but the problem with perlite is it tends to float to the top of the container, and then you end up with little dots of white all the way around, which I don't particularly like. So I've gone with horticultural sand instead of perlite. And do remember to test your horticultural sand to make sure that it's pH neutral. Now I'm just mixing some more peat in here because that's the ingredient I've been able to get in the lockdown, and just to freshen up this mix, which has been in here for quite a period of time. And remembering to keep your mix level below the overflow holes. So these are holes that are there in case it rains a lot one day and the whole thing gets sumped up, then at least the water can escape here. And here are those plants you saw earlier that we took out of the planters originally. They've all been divided and cleaned up, and now we're going to take them and we're going to replant them in our newly sited planters. So now I'm going to just place the plants on the position where I'm going to plant them. And this trug was watered beforehand because, as you'll recall, there's a lot of polystyrene chips down the bottom, and I don't want the mix to kind of filter through the polystyrene chips and drop after I've put these plants in place. So we watered it first. And just remembering to come in a bit from the side because I'm going to build up stone around here that will overhang the planter a little bit. And these are so easy to plant in the wet medium. If only planting in the garden were this easy. We'd all love gardening, wouldn't we? Well, we all love gardening anyway. And of course, a good water again. Ah! Just a few words on building a dry stone wall in your garden, and the first and most important word is that I am not a mason. Anything I've learnt is from doing it in my own garden, and the most important thing that you really must bear in mind is that these things are dangerous. Stone is heavy, and if it falls it can break a foot or it can even kill somebody. So most importantly, do not build your dry stone walls too high. The lower you keep them, the less dangerous they are. And really, because I'm not a mason, that's all I'm going to say about it. And that brings me to the end of this video about moving Sarracenia planters, or in essence about setting up outdoor Sarracenia planters in your garden. If you're interested at all in doing this, then I really would encourage you to do so if your climate is similar to mine here in Ireland. I've had these planters in the garden for 9 years now, and they've never given me any trouble. All they've given me is fantastic flowers in spring, and then a long season of interest with the modified leaves or the pictures being there right into November. So a great plant for anyone who wants a plant with a long season of interest. And of course, to you geeks out there who just love carnivorous plants, I needn't say anything because you're already sold. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and check back for lots more gardening videos. Bye! And now just planting them in, and it's so easy to plant them because the mix is so light and airy and moist, wet, not moist. You just slip in a treat.
Do you want to try that one again? Cool. Running!
Oh, Jesus Christ! Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Come on, gardener. It's heavy!